Where will Kyle Busch land in free agency? It sounds like there are only two possibilities. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, presented by Demco. Demco is built to move. Visit demco-products.com to learn more. Happy Friday, folks. All-Star Weekend is here. It is a Dover Motor Speedway Monster Mile triple header. The Truck Series races later today, I think 5 p.m. Eastern on FS1, another early Friday evening start time. O'Reilly Series tomorrow, and then a new look Cup Series All-Star race on Sunday. I still see so many asking questions about this year's All-Star format, so I figured I'd begin today's show with a quick, hopefully comprehensive breakdown. First up, qualifying. Noon Eastern on Saturday. Drivers will make multiple laps with a mandatory 4-tire pit stop. The fastest 4-tire pit stop will win the Pit Crew Challenge. Very similar to what they've done at North Wilkesboro the past few seasons. Last year was the number 71 pit crew that took home the trophy, which was kind of a surprise considering that's a Hendrick development crew. The previous 2 years were won by the same core group, although one year they were on the 54 car, the other year they were on the 20. So we'll see if they can reclaim their Pit Crew Challenge title. I've got an eye on the RFK 17 team. Reminds me of those old classic Killer Bees during the Kenseth days. That pit crew has been on it based on all the metrics I've seen so far this season. But that's qualifying on Saturday. Fast forward to Sunday. The All-Star race begins 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. FS1, yes, an All-Star race in broad daylight. No lights at Dover, so it is what it is. All 36 chartered teams will start the race, but 17 open drivers will have to race their way in through the first two stages to avoid elimination before the final 200-lap stint. Stage 1 is 75 laps. The top 26 in the running order at the end will then be inverted, so 26 will then restart first, 25th will restart second, and so on. Stage 2 then is also 75 laps. The 6 open drivers with the lowest combined finish after those first two stages will stay in the race. A 7th spot will then be given to the fan vote winner. And if you saw last week, they showed the top 5. Noah Gragson looking to win the fan vote yet again, but some other notables like Alex Bowman, Connor Zillett, Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher could spoil that. I wouldn't be surprised if a few of those guys just race their way in. Finally, a 200-lap final stage. 26 drivers will race straight up for the trophy and the big money. There will be a competition caution at or around lap 75 of the stage. But that's it. The first two stages with the inverts and the average finish, kind of complicated, but that final 200-lap run, pretty straightforward. Here's a look at all 19 all-star drivers currently locked in to that final 200-lap run. My pick to win is Denny Hamlin. I know that's chalky. He's won 2 Dover races in the next-gen era. His average finish the last 4 years here is 7.0. He's got a good pit crew, should get a good starting spot. Yeah, Denny Hamlin is my pick. Keep in mind, while Dover may not be the most exciting all-star race venue in the world, there are some changes this year. This is the first time they'll be running the 750 horsepower short track rules package at Dover in this car, and they've applied resin top to bottom, both ends of the racetrack. The corners are going to be hella gripped up potentially, should make for a different looking Dover race than what we've seen in years past. Different meaning better, different meaning worse. I guess you'll have to tune in Sunday afternoon to find out. But there's your, again, hopefully comprehensive all-star race preview. Two of the best beat reporters in the business, Bob and Bianchi, both shared free agency updates yesterday. I'll link both articles down in the description below in case you haven't read them yet. Yesterday, we reacted to the news of Connor Zillett being linked to Hendrick Motorsports. Could make that move sometime in the not-so-distant future. Today, I want to talk about Kyle Busch. Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic reports that it is increasingly likely Kyle Busch signs an extension to stay at RCR. Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports added that Busch is reportedly very engaged behind the scenes at RCR, though both Bianchi and Bob wrote that if Busch does leave RCR, Spire Motorsports is the most likely other option. This was always the most likely scenario. Sure, it would have been really cool to see Kyle Busch and Hendrick Motorsports reunite for even just 1 year, but that was always far-fetched compared to the much more likely scenario of Busch staying at RCR or potentially joining Spire, who he's raced for and won for in the trucks, his long-lasting relationship with Spire co-owner Jeff Dickerson. Those were always the two most likely possibilities, and now based on the latest reports, those may be the only possibilities for Kyle Busch this free agency cycle. So let's break this down. I want to start by looking at this from the Richard Childress Racing perspective. Kyle Busch, if you're RCR, is still the best driver available. I mean, he might not be at the tip top of his game. He may not be the most perfect fit at RCR, but he is still a really good race car driver. And if you're RCR, sure, you could promote Jesse Love or Austin Hill, but they're not going to be as good off rip as Kyle Busch is right now. They would both be works in progress. It would take a couple years for them to fully develop. Not to mention, if you're RCR, I mean, Kyle Busch is an icon, and RCR's done a great job of selling sponsorship for Kyle Busch these past few seasons, piecing together a bunch of different partners. Like, they've gone the opposite route of JGR. Joe Gibbs Racing likes to have one big anchor partner per team if possible, kind of an old school way of thinking, whereas RCR has embraced modern day volatility and has, 3 races here, 5 races here, 6 races here, 2 races here. So clearly Kyle Busch seems to be working well for Richard Childress Racing's business. It makes total sense why RCR would be happy to sign Busch to an extension. And I think that crew chief change they made a couple weeks ago was an attempt to appease Kyle Busch, to build some momentum. Not only salvage this season, but show Kyle Busch that, hey, we can be a competitive unit well on into the future. So I get it from RCR's perspective. From Kyle Busch's perspective, he's 41 years old. He just wants to win races. He wants to add to that massive trophy case. He's not interested in a rebuild. Between RCR and Spire, I think Spire would definitely give him a better shot of winning, and winning now. Big money backing them. Hendrick engines. I mean, 2 of their cars right now are firmly in the chase. RCR cars are outside the top 20. Kyle Busch, I mentioned, goes way back with Spire co-owner Jeff Dickerson. He's raced their trucks recently. Chris Gabehart is now with that team. He's sure to make a big difference. JGR has been attempting to argue in court that he's made an instant impact. So yeah, if you're Kyle Busch and you could just pick one or the other, I would pick Spire Motorsports in a heartbeat. While RCR may not be a championship contending team right now, they are still capable, and they've proven themselves capable of being a disruptor. Kyle Busch won 3 races not that long ago. Tyler Reddick won 3 races the year before that. Austin Dillon has won big races like Daytona, the Coke 600. He's won the last 2 Richmond races. And there is some hope for RCR's immediate future. Andy Street seems to be the right guy for the job. I know it's a small sample size, but between the end of last year and the last couple weeks this season, Andy Street and Kyle Busch have worked together for 7 races. In those 7 races, they have 6 top 20s, 3 top 10s, maybe should have been 4 if you look at Texas. They have a 15.4 average start. They're qualifying pretty good. That's more than 5 positions better than Busch's 2026 season average. Top 10 speed at Texas, top 10 finish at Watkins Glen. Can Kyle Busch and Andy Street build on that? Because we know by early summer, teams will start making big decisions regarding their futures. One of those teams will be Spire Motorsports. Let me shift now finally to the Spire Motorsports perspective in all of this. Because as much as Kyle Busch may say, yeah, Spire's a better opportunity, does Spire even want to make a change? We don't know. We know Carson Hocevar ain't going anywhere. He's their anchor, winner, signed a multi-year extension recently. Daniel Suarez is believed to be on a 1-year prove-it deal in the 7, but so far he's proved to have a pretty darn good 2026 season so far. Quietly one of the most successful starts. He's 14th in points right now. I saw he has a 12.4 average start this season. That is by far Daniel Suarez's best qualifying efforts of his Cup Series career. So solid start to the season. My question though, is this start sustainable? And there are a couple of basic stats that have me a little concerned. Yes, Daniel Suarez, 14th in points, very consistent, but he ranks 19th in stage points earned this year. And he ranks tied for 32nd in laps led. He's led 1 lap this season through the first 12 weeks. He's qualifying good and he's finishing good, but in between that, the middle of the race can be an adventure. And you know what the old saying is, if you run with the squirrels, you know. So that's why I wonder, is this solid start sustainable? Could we see the number 7 begin to slip? And if that happens, what decision will Spire, Suarez, the whole team make regarding that unit's future? And then the other Spire driver is Michael McDowell, the 71 car. This last weekend, McDowell implied that he has a long-term deal with Spire. Like, he made a comment about Spire development driver Tristan McKee and said, hey, when that kid's ready to go race Cup, that's when I'll retire. Well, Tristan McKee is 15 years old. Like, he's not going Cup racing for another 4-5 years at least. I highly doubt McDowell has a 5-year deal with Spire Motorsports. In fact, Bob, in his write-up, reports that McDowell does not have a long-term contract. Maybe there are a couple of years that are like team options, but yeah, it sounds like if Spire wanted to make a change soon on the 71, they probably could without much issue. Michael is 21st in points so far this season, which is not very good, but he did run top 5 at Watkins Glen. He's run top 5 in both road course races this season. Michael McDowell is 41 years old. He's roughly the same age as Kyle Busch. Again, looking at this from the Spire perspective, if they have the option to pick between Michael McDowell and Kyle Busch this cycle, and they choose McDowell, that says a lot. And it would be very unspire-like, because McDowell represents the safe route, you know? All due respect to Michael McDowell, he deserves a ton of credit for helping build Front Row Motorsports, gave them some of their most competitive years, won the Daytona 500, won a road course race. Spire brought him in on a multi-year deal because they valued his veteran leadership. Michael McDowell's a solid race car driver, but Kyle Busch is a future Hall of Famer. And they're the same age. If you have the option to go get Kyle Busch, yes, it's riskier. Kyle's a big personality. He'll come in. There are things he'll want to do his way. I mean, you listen to the radio between him and Jim Pullman the start of this year. Sometimes it felt like Kyle was the one calling the shots. Like, he wasn't just explaining what he felt in the car. He would call for specific adjustments sometimes. So sure, it's a risk bringing in Kyle Busch. Big, bold personality, sometimes volatile. We've seen that temper this year. He narrowly avoided aggressive driving penalties at Bristol and Texas in recent weeks. So Kyle Busch is a risk, but when has Spire Motorsports not taken the risk? You know, buying a charter in the first place, running as a chartered team 7 years ago, whenever it was for the first time, that was a risk. Jeff Dickerson's talked about it. Promoting Carson Hocevar to Cup as quickly as they did was a risk. Bringing in Rodney Childers and then parting ways couple months in, that was a risk that didn't work out. The Chris Gabehart deal, now in a legal battle with Joe Gibbs Racing. Like, when has Spire not taken risks? And so far, it seems to have worked out okay for them. They just won Talladega. They've got 2 cars in the chase. A third one knocking on the door was in the mix at Watkins Glen. Like, all due respect to Mike McDowell, quality race car driver, great veteran leader. Kyle Busch is more talented. He's Kyle Busch. Like, Kyle Busch, that would be the splashy, shiny, exciting move. Risky, yes. Risky for sure. But the potential upside, tremendous. So I think the real question is simply, what does Michael McDowell's contract look like? And Daniel Suarez's too, for that matter. Again, if Suarez starts to slide here over the next couple months, maybe Spire gets cold feet and wants to move a different direction. We shall see. What do their contracts look like for sure? Suarez, I think it's understood that's a 1-year deal, probably with team options. Maybe it's a 2-year deal. Michael McDowell implied he has a long-term contract, but Bob Hocker's report suggests others. I mean, Bob writes here, Spire has shown a willingness to eat a year of contract to get a driver it wants. So even if they have to buy out 1 year of McDowell, if it means going to get Kyle Busch, again, Spire is a team that takes risks, and for the most part, it's paid off in recent years. If they do opt to keep Michael McDowell this cycle, I think it speaks in many ways to McDowell's veteran leadership, what he brings them behind the scenes that you may not always see in front of TV cameras on the racetrack. It may also speak to how volatile they view Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is still talented, but he's not at his peak. I think anyone can see that. Temperamental is another word you might use to describe Kyle Busch. And Spire, I think they like the current trajectory they're on. They've won a race this year with Hocevar again. They have a couple chase contending looking cars and drivers. Maybe they like the way they're progressing. And Kyle Busch could have upside, could have a downside. Maybe they just want to stick with the status quo for the time being, keep Michael McDowell. I'd understand and respect that decision, but it would feel unspire-like to not take the risk that is Kyle Busch. Maybe I'm just being selfish because I think Spire and Kyle Busch could win races together, and Kyle Busch winning is good for the sport, good for business. I'd love to see Kyle Busch contend regularly. I believe Spire would give him a better chance than Richard Childress Racing, but we shall see. I also believe in Andy Street. I like what I've seen the last couple weeks over at the 8 team with Andy Street on the pit box. So maybe they can get RCR back to contention here sooner rather than later. Let me know what you think. Do you think Spire will go the McDowell or Busch route? Or Suarez, is he on the hot seat? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Hit that like button while you're down there if you enjoyed this show, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR every single day, all year long. I really appreciate all of your support. Busy weekend at Dover starts now. I'll talk to you later this weekend. Take care, y'all.